Have you ever really stopped to think about the words you use when you talk about food? I mean, things like junk food or organic. The vocabulary we choose, well, it says a fascinating amount about our culture, our anxieties, and what we truly value when we sit down for a meal. So let's start by just tuning our ears to the language of food. We use these words every single day, right? A lot of times without a second thought. But what are we really saying when we use them? Just think about it for a second. When was the last time you used one of these words? And did you use it to praise something or to knock it down? You see, the words we use, they carry a whole lot of weight. And today, we're going to unpack exactly what that is. Okay, let's dive in with a conversation that I'm pretty sure you've had before. We've got a group of friends, and they're talking about the challenges of modern eating. Their little debate, it perfectly captures our biggest anxieties about food today. So it all kicks off with Tom's super common complaint. We've all heard this, and let's be honest, we've probably all said it. He's worried about kids eating junk food. But let's actually break down what that term really means. So here it is, the classic definition. Junk food really just describes a simple trade-off. You get a ton of energy from the calories, but you get very little of the good stuff, the vitamins and minerals our bodies actually need to thrive. And then you've got Lucy with the other side of the coin. She's trying to provide nourishing meals, which is basically the total opposite of junk food. But her problem isn't just about nutrition. It's about perception. The healthy stuff is seen as, well, boring. And this lays out that core conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got food that's all about that immediate satisfaction. And on the other, you've got food that's focused on long-term health. It's not just a debate about what's on the plate, you guys. It's a fundamental clash of food philosophies. Then Liam chimes in, and he really widens the whole debate. He's looking past just the basic nutrients and starting to question what happens to our food before it even gets to our kitchen. His concerns point to three really big and often controversial terms: food additives, processed foods, and GM foods. These terms, they all kind of circle around one central idea: human intervention. Processed foods have been changed from their natural state, usually for convenience or safety. Food additives are things that are added to make food taste better or last longer. And GM foods have had their actual DNA scientifically modified. So the real question for people like Liam isn't just what we eat, but how much change is too much. And finally, Stella's story brings us from those long-term worries to a much more immediate danger. She's talking about perishable food and the very real, very serious consequence of mishandling it: food poisoning. Now, this is vocabulary with a direct physical impact. Perishable just means food that can go bad quickly, and if it's not handled the right way, the result can be a serious illness. It's a pretty powerful reminder that our food language can sometimes be a matter of public health. So we've seen the big societal anxieties. Now let's see how those same debates play out on a much, much smaller scale. We're going to zoom in on Eva and Leo, a couple trying to solve that timeless, universal problem: where are we going to eat? It's like the whole big debate, but in miniature. So we meet Eva and Leo in a restaurant district, and they're facing that classic dilemma. As you're about to see, their different levels of hunger are expressed through very specific words, and that vocabulary is going to be what decides where they end up. This isn't just about finding food, it's a negotiation, and their words are their main tools here. Eva kicks things off. Her suggestion is pretty modest. She says a quick snack. The words themselves imply something small, light and not very time-consuming. But Leo is on a completely different page. He is dying of hunger. His language is dramatic, and his need is crystal clear. He wants a decent meal. This is definitely not going to be a quick snack. And their conversation just perfectly sets up this comparison: a light meal versus a substantial meal. It's the difference between just tiding yourself over and really sitting down for a proper, filling experience. Their words aren't just words, they're proposals for two very different dining plans. Okay, so how do they negotiate this? Eva reminds Leo about that healthy breakfast he had just a few hours ago. Leo wants crisps, but Eva warns it'll spoil his appetite for a real meal later. And then they spot a solution: a restaurant with a set menu that's reasonably priced. It's the perfect compromise, and they make their decision. It's pretty cool, right? Notice how every single step of their logic is built with this food vocabulary. So, after listening in on these different conversations, what are the key takeaways for understanding our own food lexicon? What does this all really mean for how we talk and even think about what we eat?
All right, here's a quick and practical tip on language. When you're talking about international food, being specific is key. You'd say Chinese food or Mexican cuisine. A generic term like worldwide cuisine, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just a small detail that makes the conversation clearer and more precise.
And that brings us to our final and probably most important takeaway. We've seen how food language can represent these huge philosophical clashes over health and satisfaction, and how it can shape a simple decision about where to grab dinner. So the next time you talk about food, pay close attention to the words you choose. Are you prioritizing long-term health, like Lucy with her nourishing meals? Or are you all about immediate convenience, like Eva's quick snack? Are you expressing a modern anxiety about intervention, like Liam was? Your food vocabulary is like a map to what you truly value. So what does yours say about you?